For those of us who have used other Office 2013 applications, or even Office 2010 or 2007, many of the interface features in Outlook 2013 will be familiar. For those who are new to recent versions of Office, or to computers in general, it's all going to be new. But Outlook 2013 finally includes the full ribbon interface. Although Outlook was one of the last applications to get the complete makeover, it kind of got a little nip and tuck, if you will, in Office 2010, but it gets the full deal this time around. We invest a lot of time going over some of the specific features in our Office 2013 Shared Features series. So here, we just want to touch on the basics and what is unique to Outlook. First, we notice the softer, gentler interface. Office 2013 kind of goes minimalist on us in this version. So gone are the bold colors and lines that we used to differentiate different elements with. It's a little bit softer, and therefore we kind of have to pay a little bit more attention when we're moving from one area to the other. But we do notice at the top left-hand side of the screen, we have what's known as the Quick Access Toolbar. Here we have options that we will always have access to regardless of what we're doing in Outlook. Things like sending an email message and undo. Then we get to the ribbon. The ribbon is composed of several different elements. They include tabs and groups, and within groups we have options, and sometimes we'll even have something called a gallery, which gives us a visual representation of some of the more graphical features in Office. If we're not finding what we're looking for, there's two things that we could look for in addition. One is, on the bottom right corner of some of the groups is something called a dialog box launcher. If we click or tap here, we'll see a traditional window or dialog box that is filled with all kinds of options that just won't fit on the ribbon. The other thing we might notice is in some cases, extra tabs will show up, usually on the right-hand side. For example, when we're working with a picture, then we'll have picture tools. These things are actually not new. They've been around since the ribbon was first introduced in 2007. But some of them are new and now fully integrated in Outlook. Another thing I wanted to mention is on the far upper right-hand corner, in addition to our minimize, maximize, and close buttons, we also now have an option to work with the ribbon. If we display this, we can see that we can completely hide the ribbon, or we can choose to show just the tabs, or we can choose the default, put it back the way it was, to say that we want to keep the ribbon open with the tabs and the options always visible. This, of course, is important because now a lot of people are using mobile devices, and screen space is a rarity. So by collapsing the ribbon, they simply get more room to work if they're working on a small tablet or a cell phone. That pretty much takes care of the top of the screen, so let's go all the way down to the bottom left and take a look at the status bar. Again, the status bar isn't necessarily new. On the left-hand side, because we're in our Mail module and currently in the inbox, it tells us we currently have 14 items and 6 of them are unread. As we move more to the right, we can see that all of our folders are up to date, that we're currently connected to an Exchange server. We could change our view. And lastly, if we wanted to zoom in and out on our email preview so we could read it easier, we can do that as well. I always like to remind people there is good information in the status bar, but for some reason we just don't seem to look there. So try to get in the habit of glancing down at the bottom of the screen every once in a while. Now let's get to the main part of the Outlook screen. It's divided currently into 3 different panes. On the left-hand side is a pane that we'll almost always see, the folder pane, and that's because it contains our folders. So Outlook is kind of categorized into different modules. We can have Mail, we can work with the calendar, we can have the People module, which used to be called Contacts, the Task List, and a couple of more kind of lesser modules, if you will. These are actually all at the very bottom of the screen as small icons. They used to be buttons that ran up and down on the left-hand side of the screen, but again, space is the deal with 2013, so now they're small icons. We could click on these if we wanted to change to different modules. In the Mail module, then the navigation pane, or the now called folder pane on the left-hand side, shows us our mail folders. Things like inbox, drafts, sent items, deleted items, junk mail, the outbox, RSS feeds, and search folders. These, of course, are folders that you will learn a lot more about as you begin to work through Outlook. By simply clicking on a folder, we can look at the contents of those different folders. But one of the things that's nice about the folder pane is that it is collapsible. You'll notice on its top right edge, there's a left-pointing arrow. If we click or tap this, it collapses down and kind of becomes vertical tabs along the left-hand edge of our screen. If we want to get it back, we just click or tap the right arrow to expand it back out. Some people like to collapse it down. I tend to keep mine open because I'm always bouncing around between different folders. So to me, it's just fewer clicks if I keep it open, but it is personal choice. When we're looking at the mail folders and we click one of the folders in the folders pane, we will get to see what the email messages are inside that folder. We do talk a lot more about how to use this actual middle portion of the window when we talk specifically about email. For now, we just need to know that it's showing us the inbox and all of the messages that are contained in the inbox. What I wanted to point out about this one, though, is that all of these panes actually can be resized. If we move to an edge, in this case to the right edge, and get a double-headed arrow, we can press and hold our left mouse button and drag it in or out to resize the amount of space that we have. This, of course, is a personal choice, and you will find a configuration that works best for you and the types of things that you work with. What's maybe most important for us to know now about this middle section is that when we select an email message, we can actually preview that on the right-hand pane. This used to be called the preview pane. Now it's called the reading pane because it really does so much more than just preview stuff. Using this pane, we don't have to physically open each message, but can quickly review it by simply selecting it. Notice it's actually much more than a preview. It is functional. We could read the message, we can see who sent it, who else received it, we can see the subject if it has attachments, and even reply to or forward it, all without ever having to open the message itself. Now, I think that's a pretty powerful pane, and I really enjoy using it. We've already seen how we could collapse and resize the other panes. We can also turn the reading pane on and off and move where it is. But to do this, we need to actually access the View tab from the ribbon. So let's move up to the top of the screen, give a click or a tap to the View tab, and then draw our attention over to the right-hand side in the Layout group. Here we have an option for the reading pane, and if we expand it, we can see that we could put the reading pane on the right side like it is by default, at the bottom of the screen with the inbox above it, or we could turn it completely off. I strongly urge you to always keep it on and on the right-hand side. There's really many reasons, but in short, this is the most intuitive place to find it, and it allows us to see more of a message without having to scroll, which is beneficial. When it sits at the bottom, we have a very narrow area to work with, and we often have to scroll just to read the message. Believe it or not, people don't like to scroll, so the right-hand side is really the best place to have it. Now, do me a favor and use Outlook for probably a couple of weeks, and then if it really bothers you, you can go ahead and move it or turn it off completely. But I think what you're going to find is that you really enjoy having it as an alternative to having to open and close multiple messages every day. I'm going to go ahead and get out of this little drop down by simply clicking somewhere else. Notice we do also have options for the folder pane from the View tab. This is the main Outlook window, and it's what we are presented with when we launch Outlook. It's also kind of the command center, if you will, because this is where we find a majority of our content and do a lot of our work. Technically, though, when we work with an individual Outlook item, it's done through some type of form. For example, if we move to the left-hand side of the ribbon, select the Home tab, and then click or tap New Email, we are presented with what most of us would call a blank email, but technically it's called a blank email form. Everything that we do in Outlook having to do with adding, entering, or deleting data is done in some type of form. This is an email form, but we'll also take a look at calendar forms, task forms, meeting forms, and more. We'll be spending a lot of time working in forms, so for now, we're just going to move to the upper right corner, give the little X a click or a tap to close it out, and get us back to our main Outlook screen. And with that, you and I can both take a breath. There is a lot of information packed into the main Outlook screen. It helps that Outlook finally fully incorporates the full Fluent interface. That's the technical name of that ribbon. So if we're already comfortable with it from other Office applications, or once we get comfortable with it in Outlook, it's going to remain constant as we work throughout the Office 2013 applications. The folder, mail, and reading panes logically lay out information from the most generic on the left to the most specific, which would be the actual message, on the right. As we've come to expect from Microsoft, we can customize many of the elements the way that we want to accommodate our personal tastes and needs. For example, resizing the panes and turning things on and off. If it all seems a little bit overwhelming right now, just trust me when I say that in a few days, it'll all seem like old hat and you'll be clicking your way through Outlook like a pro.